Welcome back to Originality Check. I started this series last year, and it sort of fell on the back burner for a bit. Well, it's time to give it another go, and I plan on hitting this series pretty strong during the off-season. In this series, we take a look at a park's coaster lineup, both past coasters and current coasters, and judge it based upon originality. To determine a coaster's originality, there are 3 points to check off. Number 1 being that the coaster was originally built at the park and was not relocated from another park. Number 2 is that it is not a cloned model. And number 3 is that it has an original name. Each coaster can rack up to 3 points each. At the end of the video, we will add all of these up and determine the originality of the park's lineup. To start off the relaunch of this series, we are going to King's Dominion. Since its opening in 1975, King's Dominion has opened a total of 20 coasters. 6 of them have been retired or removed from the park in its history, and currently it has 14 operating coasters. RCDB says 13, but Racer 75 counts as 2 since it's 2 separate circuits. King's Dominion can rack up a total of 60 possible points. Let's see how original all 20 of these coasters are or were. Now before we dive into this, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. It really helps me out against the annoying YouTube algorithm. My channel against the YouTube algorithm is like a coaster and roller coaster tycoon that's broken down. You are Mechanic 1 and are heading my way. You're my only hope. Do the right thing. Let's get to judging. We're going to go in order from the first coaster to open at the park to the latest. Starting off with Woodstock Express, which opened with the park in 1975. However, this did technically open 1 year before King's Dominion in 1974. 1974 was sort of like a preview year for King's Dominion. It was called Alliance County Safari. A year later, this would open as King's Dominion. So I guess technically it did open originally with the park, so I'll give it 1 point there. This coaster layout has been used a few times from PTC, so I'm going to go ahead and say that it's a cloned model, because if there are any differences, they're very subtle. And the name Woodstock Express, come on, it's Cedar Fair. 1 point for Woodstock Express. Next is Galaxy, which also opened with the park in 1975 and was removed in 1983. This was an SDC Zyklon Galaxy model. This did originally open at King's Dominion, so we have 1 point there. However, this definitely was a cloned model. There are many of these around the world, and many of them having the same name, so 1 point for Galaxy. Racer 75, or formerly known as Rebel Yell. This also originally opened at the park as the main headlight attraction, so we got 1 point there. It's a typical out and back racing coaster from PTC. It's very similar to Racer at Kings Island, but there are some differences in its layout. But it begs the question, is each side of it not a clone of the other? Each side of this ride is technically the same layout, but they are just mirrored copies of each other. Some gray area here and could be up for debate, but I'll go ahead and give each side the point here. The original name Rebel Yell has been used on other coasters, but Racer 75 has not. And each side technically has its own name, one side being called North Side and the other South Side, or Red or Blue Side. So I'll give each side a point there too. So 3 points for each side of Racer 75, so 6 points total. King Cobra, opening in 1977 and closing in 1986. This was a Schwarzkopf shuttle loop. This did originally open at King's Dominion, so 1 point there. It was relocated many times after its time in King's Dominion, but since it did originally open at King's Dominion, it can keep its point. It was later relocated to Jolly Roger Amusement Park, then to Alton Towers, and is now currently at Hopi Hari in Brazil. Many of these were made, so it is a clone. As for the name, only a 1-letter difference will save this ride. The name King Cobra, spelled with a C, was used at Kings Island, but I guess for the sake of being different and they knew that one day some coaster YouTuber will be judging the name of this ride, they changed the spelling of the name to King Cobra with a K. I guess they knew that I would be onto them eventually. So King Cobra, enjoy your point for being proactive. 2 points for King Cobra. Grizzly, opening in 1982, and this is pretty much King's Dominion's version of the Beast at Kings Island, but a lot smaller. This did originally open at King's Dominion and is not a cloned model since it was made specifically for King's Dominion, but the name has been used on a few other coasters, so no point there. 2 points for Grizzly. Shockwave, opening in 1986 and closed in 2015. This was a Togo standing coaster. I had the displeasure of riding this ride when I was a kid, and I'll just say it was not friendly to shorter riders. This did originally open at King's Dominion. There are some other Togo standing coasters with similar layouts, but this one had a few differences in its second half, so I'll give it a point for not being a clone. But the name Shockwave has been used many times for other coasters, so 2 points for Shockwave. Reptilian, opening in 1988, originally opening with the name Avalanche, up till 2021. This is a mock custom bobsled, and one of the official coasters of Bulby. This coaster has been at the park all of its life. It does have an original layout. The original name Avalanche has been used many times, but the name change to Reptilian saved it from losing a point there. So 3 points for Reptilian. Anaconda, opening in 1991, and this is debatably one of the worst operating aero loopers. The first half is great. The second half,
dogs. Yeah.
This custom looper did originally open at the park, so 2 points right off the bat. But the name Anaconda has been used many times, so 2 points for Anaconda. Hurler, opening in 1994 and was retired in 2015 to be given the Iron Horse treatment from RMC. This was one of only 2 coasters that International Coasters would ever make. An identical version of this still exists at Carowinds. This did originally open at the park, but we know that there is a clone of it, and it even shares the same name as that clone, so 1 point for Hurler. Flight of Fear, opening in 1996. This is a Premier Rides LIM launch coaster, or a spaghetti bowl, and awkwardly sits between Jungle Expedition and I-305. This whole section of the park just makes zero sense. Going from a jungle to space to a raceway, and throw a stunt movie themed coaster in the middle of all that, why don't you? We'll get to you later. This has been at King's Dominion all of its life, but it is a cloned model. It also shares the same name as the one in Kings Island, so 1 point for Flight of Fear. Great Pumpkin Coaster, the only credit at King's Dominion that still eludes me to this day. This opened in 1997 as Taxi Jam, and then renamed to its current name in 2013. This did open originally at the park, but it is a clone model of the same one at Kings Island, and even shares the same name, so 1 point for Great Pumpkin Coaster. Volcano to Blast Coaster, opening in 1998 and was brutally taken away from us in 2019. This intimate suspended catapult coaster was truly one of a kind. I don't think much needs to be said about this coaster. This coaster is about as original as it gets, which made its removal that much more painful. Rest in pieces, you beautiful thing. Enjoy your 3 points. Hypersonic XLC, a prototype air-powered launch coaster from S&S. It was pretty short-lived at King's Dominion. It opened in 2001 and closed in 2007. When I visited King's Dominion as a kid, I did see this ride operate, but my parents didn't want to wait in a long line for it, so I never got my credit on it. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Not that I blame them, because the capacity on this thing was abysmal and the line was super long. This did originally open at the park, it did have an original layout and an original name, so 3 points for this prototype. Apple Zapple opened in 2002, originally named Ricochet, and was renamed to Apple Zapple in 2017. It's a common mock wild mouse model. It did originally open at the park, but it is a cloned model. The name change from Ricochet to Apple Zapple does gain it a point there, so 2 points for Apple Zapple. Backlot Stunt Coaster, the coaster awkwardly in the middle of Jungle Expedition. Opened in 2006 as Italian Job Turbo Coaster, then renamed to its current name in 2008. This did originally open at King's Dominion, but there are 2 other clones of this at Kings Island and Canada's Wonderland, and the name change will actually make it lose a point here. The 2 clones at Kings Island and Canada's Wonderland were originally called Italian Job Stunt Track. This was Italian Job Turbo Coaster, so it used to have an original name. But all 3 of these coasters were renamed to the same name, Backlot Stunt Coaster, so no point there. 1 point for Backlot. Dominator, the longest being and floorless to this day, originally opened at Geauga Lake in 2000, then was moved to King's Dominion in 2008, so no point there. The layout is unique for being floorless. Many of them use very similar layouts with the same order of elements, but this one goes off the beaten path a little bit. It was also called Dominator at Geauga Lake, but it's technically the same coaster and no other coasters share this name, so I'll give it a point there. 2 points for Dominator. Intimidator 305, opening in 2010, is one of the world's most intense coasters. Debatably the most intense coaster when it comes to sustained positive Gs and overall ride experience. This did open at the park, it's not a clone, and the 305 gives it a point there, so 3 points for I-305. While I'm happy this ride does exist, Cedar Fair did not get much of a return on an investment on this ride because the general public didn't like it, causing Cedar Fair to neglect this park of any new coasters for a while.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Until 2018 with Twisted Timbers, which used to be Hurler. For being a smaller RMC, this one packs a lot of punch in its small layout. Even though it was built from another coaster, the original version of this did open at King's Dominion, so 1 point there. It does follow the same layout footprint as Hurler, but the elements are so drastically different, so not a clone. And the name, well, while it's cheesy, I guess it's original. Wait, seriously? Sorry dude, 2 points. Last is Tumil, an S&S free spin opening in 2022. I found it hilarious when some coaster enthusiasts lost their minds when they thought that this was the replacement for Volcano. I swear coaster enthusiasts just want a reason to cry about something. This did originally open at the park, but it is the same layout as Dragon Slayer at Adventureland Park. However, it does have a unique name, so 2 points for Tumil. Alright, we've gone over each coaster in King's Dominion's history. The total possible points was 60 points, and the park ended up scoring 40 points, giving King's Dominion 66.6 originality. Wow, really? Okay, let's just round it up, 67%. This is about what I expected this park to score, knowing that the park has many clones and shared names from the Paramount era. But hey, maybe not the highest score in originality, but King's Dominion is still a great park. I've enjoyed every visit I've ever had here, and I want to make an effort to visit this park more this year. And there are rumors of Volcano's replacement finally coming in 2025, so maybe soon even more reason to visit more often. And that'll do it for this episode of Originality Check. What parks do you guys want to see next in this series? Comment down below. So far I've done Hershey Park, Six Flags America, Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Now that King's Dominion is done, what parks should we do next? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a massive thumbs up down below and go ahead and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. The buttons are like right next to each other, so like you might as well. I've got a few other new series that I will be posting very soon. Also check out my newest series, Epic Excursions, a short cinematic montage showing all the beauty of the park for each episode. This is absolutely my favorite style of editing, so definitely check it out for something different. Alright, I wrapped the video up here, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next loop.